Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Not Minding My Own Business. I am your host, estate planning and elder law attorney Russell Farbiard, and I am joined here today by Luis Vanderhorst. Luis, welcome.
Thank you, Russell. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, wonderful. And we were just chatting before we got on that you are actually used to being the interviewer as opposed to the interviewee.
So this
on,
is a first.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you have a podcast of your own, Real Estate Heroes. So why don't we start there and just tell us a little bit about your podcast?
The Real Estate Home Runs is a podcast that I have where I started just because I love to learn. I love to find out what people do, how they got there, what are some things that help them be successful, and also, okay, and now with this knowledge, how can I share it with others?
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, these conversations that I'm having with these people, others are asking me the same questions. They're wondering the same thing. So why don't I put it out there for people to see and learn, like, oh, how was that person able to buy their first real estate deal?
Mm-hmm.
How are they able to fund it? How can I be involved in real estate? I have no money or I have no time. You can be involved.
So that sort of leads us, well, before we move to exactly what you do. Where can people find your podcast?
It's on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and some other platforms as well. Yeah, I was a little more consistent before, have kind of slowed down now that I'm focusing more on real estate, and I'm sure we'll get to that later on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts.
Okay,
those platforms.
So why don't we get into it? Tell me what sort of real estate work are you doing?
Yeah, so I've been buying whole investors, so buying houses that need work and keeping them as rentals, and have also been doing some other types of creative real estate where fix and flips, like we acquire the house, put it on the market and sell it to a family, and then some other transactions off market.
I love the phrase creative real estate because if you've been in real estate long enough, you know that every deal is an exercise in creativity.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
So what is the most creative real estate deal that you've been involved in?
Yeah, interesting question. I'll tell you about my first one.
Sure.
It was not really creative, and it wasn't a home run. So you're like, oh, Louis, so then what's the purpose of your podcast? But I was attending meetups in the area, local groups for investors, and he was actually the secretary of the Berks RIA. He approached me because he knew I was young, determined, and hungry. And he was like, hey, I have this property on the market. I know you want to learn about real estate. I would love to sit down with you and show you the numbers, see how it works. So we met up at the Reading Public Library on Fifth Street. And he's like, they're showing me this is income, these are expenses. And this is how the cap rate. I know some high level terms there. But basically broke it down so easily that I could understand it and said, yeah, this house has been on the market, is about to expire soon. But if you want it, I'll sell it to you for $37,000, $5,000 less than what he had it listed for. And that one was not so creative, but I was able to use some money that I had saved up while I was in college and use that as a down payment on that house. And I am so glad that he sat me down, showed me like what the numbers meant, how it all works. and kind of like in a friendly way, kind of put me on the spot. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad that he did that, because otherwise I wouldn't have pulled the trigger and bought that property. And later I learned that he needed to sell because his wife had cancer, and he
Mhm.
wanted to liquidate his real estate so he could spend time with her. And I learned that less than a year ago he passed. Um, but that was not with out of that deal. It was not that was worth it. It was the relationship that I was able to build with him that really changed me.
Well, he became a mentor for you.
He became a mentor for me, yes. And that's kind of what empowered me and allowed me to buy other deals. And now when we're talking about creative, I've been able to buy some deals with none of my money at all. There's been through private lenders that fund the renovations and the purchase, and which is unheard of. And I'm only using a bank at the end if I have to, or I'm listing it on the market. But that's some creative stuff that
Yeah.
I've done.
So I've been involved in some of those deals as well, because
Mhm.
in addition to being an attorney, I'm also a title agent, and so I've insured some of those projects. But if you want to explain to our listeners how exactly that work how that works, that you can buy an investment property and not use a penny of your own money.
Yeah, great question. And that's also another reason why I decided to start the Real Estate Home Runs podcast, because when people think of real estate, they automatically equate that to a realtor.
Right.
And I'm not a realtor. I have many realtor friends. I have services that I provide to realtors. But real estate investing does not stop or end there. There are so many other ways that people can be involved in real estate or learn about real estate, and realtors just happen to play one part of it. So how I was able to buy some of the houses that I did without any of my money is that I connected with a friend who had money in a savings account or in a retirement account, and they lend me from that retirement account. And we worked out the terms, the percentage, so that it was beneficial for her, and also beneficial for me. And I didn't have to go through the whole process of getting bank approval, bank financing. And I was very attractive to banks and credit unions at the time, because I had a job, I had a W-2 job as a teacher, and they like to see that. But I wanted to have the flexibility to have more time and more control in the
Mhm.
funds. And that's how I was able to buy it. So that person was able to walk away with a good amount of
Okay.
profit just for lending me the money.
So those sort of lending arrangements tend to be higher than a rate that you would get at the bank. And are they typically for a long period of time or a short period of time?
They're typically for a shorter period of time. And what I've seen is anywhere between 7 to 10% return. And what's different about that is that it's real estate backed, whereas other type of
Mhm.
investing or lending opportunities are not real estate backed. So that's a big benefit. So meaning that worst case scenario, right? The person gets the house for them. They keep the house and they could do whatever they want with the house.
Mhm. Okay. Um, Now you mentioned some other, what I'll call terms of art a few minutes ago, like cap rate. If you want to explain to our listeners what the cap rate is, and more importantly, when you're looking at a property, what is it you're looking for to determine if it's a good fit for your investment portfolio?
Yeah, excellent questions. So the cap rate is mainly used on commercial properties, and it basically is the net operating income divided by the value of the house. So the net operating income is the income minus expenses divided by the value of the house, and that is your cap rate. So the better the cap rate is, the the better the property is. Some people buy an asset, they do improvements to the asset, fixing up windows, fixing up doors, floors, increasing the rents. So now they're and forcing appreciation, meaning forcing the value of the house or the apartments. So the better the cap rate, the better they can sell it if they decide to, or refinance with the bank to get that value out. Yes.
And so then
And another question you had was what
this is the,
what are some things that I look for?
yeah, this is the problem with compound questions.
It's okay. You threw me a curveball there, but so yeah, those are great questions. So I look for location. They say location, location, location when you're looking at real estate to buy. And it's true. You want to consider the area, because you do not want to buy something that is the you don't ideally you don't want to buy the best looking house in the worst neighborhood, or invest so much money into a house in the worst neighborhood, because the value of or the comparables of the houses nearby is going to impact your house as well. So what's best to do is to do it the other way around. Now, instead of buying the best house in the worst neighborhood, buy the worst house in the best neighborhood, improve it. And that's a good rule of thumb. But having a good team, having attorneys on your team, your toolbox, title agents in your toolbox, agents and good contractors. Oh man, good contractors. That's a major one there. And treat them well. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned contractors, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of a lot of doozies out there on the marketplace. I'll never forget. My wife and I were looking for our first house. We wanted something that had two bathrooms, and apparently in a lot of houses, two bathrooms means a bathroom on the main level and a toilet somewhere in the basement. And I've seen multiple of those. I'm sure you have. What is sort of the most interesting or bizarre thing you've seen when you're looking at properties?
Um, I've seen a lot of things. And like people perhaps using the wrong flooring, um, or uh, the first property that I bought, blood red carpet,
Oh,
bright yellow walls. I was like, all of this needs to go.
the
Uh,
1970s called and they wanted their carpet and their drapes back.
I guess so. But I was like, why would people have this type of layout? So I changed that. Yeah, but I've seen contractors, yeah, using the wrong outlets, or doing, yeah, not installing GFIs properly. You Yeah, or even doors with the doorknob the wrong way. So and we're seeing it more now with the hype of HGTV and like everybody wanting to get into flipping, and it's a job for the people that do flipping. It's a job. And sometimes some contractors just want to paint something, put some lipstick on it and move on without looking at the details, making sure that things are done well. And it's tough when you're in a time frame. So it's yeah, it can you got to know how to find that medium.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I'm sure you have a good team of contractors at your disposal because time is money. How long does it usually take you to renovate a house before you put it back on the market?
It depends really how extensive the project is. The largest one that I've done to date was like a total renovation. It was um, down to the studs, and we built it up from installation to
Wow.
um, wallpaper. I mean, drywall, not wallpaper. We do not put any wallpapers on our properties. Um, yeah, everything, new bathroom, completely new kitchen. That one was a year, and it's because that property was a learning experience. We didn't run due diligence properly on like checking the septic and the well, and it kind of came back to us later on, but we addressed it. We fixed the issue, and now we're on the contract with a nice family.
Well, wonderful.
But you typically I try to stay with between 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I would imagine, probably your lenders are looking at getting repaid in like what, 6 to 8 months. So
Mhm.
you want to keep it moving. What neighborhoods do you typically have? Do you have homes in? Is it just in the city of Reading, or do you do uh, deals in the suburbs as well?
I do deals in the suburbs and have properties in different areas of Berks County. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said earlier that you started your career as a teacher. So how long were you a teacher?
I was a teacher for 6 years.
Okay. And what did you teach?
Social studies, middle school.
Middle school. I have a middle school daughter. I yeah, it's definitely an interesting age. Were you fifth and sixth grade?
Yeah, sixth and seventh.
Sixth and seventh. Uh,
Mhm.
and what sort of motivated you to move out of teaching uh, and into what you're doing now full time?
It's been my goal to do real estate full time since I started teaching. Like I said earlier, I just love the idea of learning
Mhm.
and then applying that. And I also enjoy seeing something in the worst shape and improving it, bringing its like improving its value. And I just want to, yeah, just do something good in the world. And faith is important to me. So I want to be a good steward of what God has given me. So that's basically what motivated me to do it.
Okay. And what did you what skills did you take from the classroom to the real estate market?
A lot,
I'm sure.
a lot. And in the classroom, you people say teachers, they're the ones that know it all. They they're the teachers. They're teaching the students, but believe it or not, as a teacher, you learn even more than the student.
Mhm.
You have to learn it twice. Learn it for yourself and learn it so that you could teach it to other people. So you have to pay extra attention. And those are skills that transferable skills that you can apply anywhere you go. How to, in most businesses nowadays, especially in real estate, and what you and I do, you're constantly talking to people, interacting with people. So people skills is at the most uh, important. And knowing how to not take things personal, but look at it from try to put yourself in other people's shoes and see things how they see them. And now in real estate, I see it where like I'm coming in the classroom, I was solving issues in the classroom and not just teaching social studies, but hey, this student didn't have anything to eat for breakfast. They were up most of the night. They have a newborn in the family. They're one of 5 kids. So it's like, okay, how can I identify where they are so that I can come up with a game plan to take them where I want them to go? And it's the same thing with real estate, with a
Mhm.
project to helping a family going through foreclosure from going from one place to another. All of that ties in, and teaching teaches you a lot.
It certainly does. Now, I'm not an educator in the formal sense, but I can imagine, you see a lot of things in the classroom setting that I'm sure are helpful in figuring out problems as you're working through a real estate deal. Um, Now, is there something about, the work that you're doing in real estate you think that more people should be aware of?
Yeah, I think the fact that real estate is not just tied into realtors. There are other ways that people can learn about real estate and be involved in real estate. And I feel like real estate is a vehicle that can change someone's trajectory, um, and it can position people in a better place
Mhm.
and in a position where they can do something better for the community, do something better for themselves, and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a guest on a few weeks ago, and we were
Hmm.
talking about the value, the percentage return on an investment in real estate, which is a
Hmm.
lot. It can really be a lot higher than you think, because even if you borrow something, borrow at, say 5, 6, 7%, but if the value of it goes up 10 to 12%, then
Hmm.
you've made a pretty nice return on your investment.
Hmm.
So that's something I think that sometimes people don't necessarily always look at that, from the long term, in the long term perspective. Now,
Hmm.
if there's someone who's wants to get more involved in real estate investing or whatnot, are
Hmm.
there resources that you can point them to? Are there courses or that you can take?
Yeah, if they're interested in learning about real estate investing, is that what you're
Yes.
asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say yes. When it comes to uh, real estate investing, there are a lot of resources online on YouTube, free resources. Um, uh, the Real Estate Home Runs podcast too, where
Mhm.
not I'm yeah, not pitching my podcast there, but it's free. I'm doing if I'm asking people questions that I get a lot.
Right.
And it's been interesting to hear people's story because online sometimes you only see the positive, but you don't always hear about the negative. But any particular topic that someone is interested in, there are resources on YouTube. There are courses that people can take on Udemy, or even like Quizlet. You can find
Mhm.
resources, and if someone wants to take it to the next level, even being part of masterminds or attending local meetup groups to connect and network with other investors in the area.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And you said the negatives. What would you say your biggest success is and your biggest failure in real estate investing?
My biggest success, I'll say, has been being able to build up a team, build up a network to come out of teaching, and be able to focus on real estate full time. And the biggest failure, or I guess learning opportunity, has been this house that I can't wait to sell, just because of those things that I should have done during the due diligence, but didn't. So when you're dealing with houses outside of the city, yeah, if they have a septic there, you want to make sure you get it inspected. So it just helps you anticipate what's coming, if anything. Yeah.
So do the due diligence if you can, is
Hmm.
is the lesson. Now,
And be humble. Be humble. Don't feel like you know everything or you can't receive feedback, because when I was a teacher, I learned from the custodian. I learned from the
mhm.
secretaries. I learned from the nurses. And just because someone does not have a quote unquote title does not mean you should not listen to them. There's a lot that you can learn from other people. But There are many people that have pioneered the way and are more advanced than we are. And if we're not willing to receive uh, and tap into those resources that are where we want to be, then we're missing out a lot.
Absolutely. We can't forget that we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, and and learn the lessons that they have to share with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, are you a born and raised Berks Countyan, or are you a transplant, as I like to call it?
So I'm Dominican. I was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to the U.S. with my family, and I have been in Reading since. So I moved to the U.S. 2004, lived in New York for about a year, and then moved to the Berks County area, and I love it. People take what we have in our area for granted, but there's so much to do around here, so many opportunities, so many relationships that you can build, and I think if people are not going out of their way, um, putting themselves in uncomfortable situations at times, just meeting people, connecting, they miss out on all that Berks County has to offer.
So, what is your favorite thing about the area then?
Oh, there are hikes, so many hiking trails in the area, and then I like to have fun too. I like to work hard, but at the same time have fun when I have to. There are great hikes, so many different restaurants nearby, the attractions, um, uh, networking events, people that want to see this area thrive and grow, and I love that. And I know Reading sometimes gets a bad rep. I have lived in Reading, um, worked in the city, and I think there is so much positive that sometimes gets, how can I say, crowded or clouded by the negative that people take for granted what we have. And I read, I think the U.S. News, real estate, U.S. News for real estate. It's a national uh, publishing company. They rank Reading, the Reading metro area, so not the city, but the Reading metro area. So we're talking 350 or so thousand people, as number 15 retirement place in the country, because affordability in housing, all the different things that are there to do, the schools and also the attractions. Yeah. And I feel like Reading has a lot of potential that other places don't.
That's very interesting. Um, I wouldn't necessarily have thought of it as a hot retirement location, but it makes sense given the affordability and the other, there's a lot of recreation to take advantage of. Well, thank you so much for being here on my show, not minding my own business, and I understand that we'll also be on your show, Real Estate Home Runs. So it's been wonderful having this conversation. If anyone is looking to reach out to you for any reason, what's the best way to do that?
They can connect with me on Facebook, Luis Vanderhorst, Luis, Vanderhorst, Vanderhorst, for those that are listening. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Luis Vanderhorst. I'm happy to connect, answer any questions people may have.
Well, thank you for being here, Luis, and thank you again to all our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Not Minding My Own Business.